Welcome to Tech Talk Nation, talking about the latest tech, industry news, and hot topics. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Visit our website at techtalknation.com.
Good evening and welcome to Tech Talk Nation. I'm your host, Matt Fitzgerald. We have a great show for you tonight. Apologies for the late start here a little bit. We just ran into a couple technical difficulties getting the show started for you today. Basically, long story short, I found out that you have to click another button to go live the way I scheduled the show for today. So, lesson learned, and here we go. So without further ado, we have a wonderful show for you today. We're going to be talking from everything from Tesla to some cool research done by all of our alma mater, and some really cool developments with Google and their own custom chip fab. So without further ado, welcome to the show, everybody. Oh my goodness, I didn't even check this. You guys aren't even showing up right now. Give me 1 second to pop out.
Dang.
Yeah, look
Real
at
nice,
that.
Fitz.
Real nice.
Yeah,
Give me a
welcome to the
second.
Matt Fitzgerald show, starring Matt Fitzgerald.
It's only me today. Only me today. We are off to a rough start today, but here we go. Such is life. So anyway, welcome to the show. How are you guys doing today? Everything going good with you guys?
I'm doing pretty well.
About as good as it could be.
Good. Awesome. Well, we have a big show for you as I decide to change the thing here today. Jeez, I was really not prepared for this.
You could probably change to something related to our main story.
Our main story.
Well, I'll use this time to plug our social media. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. This is Tech Talk Nation. I'm one of your co-hosts, Matt Grislow, and I run the social media for our podcast. Don't forget, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. On Facebook, we are at Tech Talk Nation Show. On Instagram, Tech Talk Nation. And then Twitter, Tech Talk Nations, Tech Talk Nation with an S. You can also find our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and any other major podcast places wherever you get your podcasts from. The social media is a little bare right now. We're trying to get some content together. Behind the scenes, we've been talking about some things we can post on our stories. And then in addition to that, discussing the potential of starting a Clips channel where we post some of the more popular bits from our podcast here in short form content for you guys to more easily digest after the show during the week, after we post the show. That being said, you can also watch the show on YouTube after it streams. So don't forget, if you forget to tune in, you can always tune in on YouTube and all those other places to hear us and listen to us and hear us talking about tech. So without further ado, I'll give it back to you, Fitz.
Alrighty. Thank you so much, Grislow. And basically what we're going to do right now is we're going to start off our new section that we call updates, just making sure we know what's going on with our stories that we talked about a couple weeks ago, last week, whatever. We wanted to bring you guys the updates and kind of revisit what we talked about. So some updates for you today. Tesla here is opening their supercharger network and will enable access to new $7.5 billion EV funding in the US. And long story short, there's always a money motivation behind everything that's done. And long story short, the reason that Tesla is opening it up to everybody else is as part of this infrastructure bill that's going through Congress right now. One of the stipulations of getting funding for vehicle charging stations is to serve vehicles produced by more than one vehicle manufacturer. So now we know why Tesla was opening that all up. It was not.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the other reason is because, as you transition away from gas a little bit, all of a sudden someone has to provide the electricity and you basically get to supplant oil that way.
Fair point, especially when oil prices are pretty high, or gas prices.
With big oil, it's going to be big electric.
Big electric.
Oh boy.
There you go. That's going to be a new term that we're going to hear. In our other update for today, Microsoft, we mentioned about how they have renting basically Windows 365 cloud PCs. Well, they actually came out with all that stuff, and they are finally launching it. And they show $31, $41, and $66 for your more like enterprise stuff. And then on your user side of things, it's like $20, I think. Um, yeah, here it is. It says the cheapest setup, 2 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of storage, and 112 gigs of bandwidth starts at $20 per user. And I don't know about you guys, but 12 gigabytes of bandwidth, I can go through that in like a night. But granted, you're probably not going to be streaming movies off of this thing. So,
Well, does that mean bandwidth, or does that mean? I'm pretty sure that means bandwidth. Isn't like you could use 12 gigs at once? No.
I want to think it's metered. That's the thing that I'm not sure about, though.
Ah,
I think it's metered,
could
but
be, especially if it's the
If it's
cheapest price.
metered, that's insane.
right. Let me see. Windows 365 cloud PCs.
I just kind of assume that means you could do like 12 gig throughput. So that means you probably play games on their servers that way.
At $20 a month, that's pretty good. But do you want to be using like a virtual machine to play games versus just
Oh,
Oh
playing
no, it's a
locally?
lot slower.
here's an article.
Yeah,
Honestly, I'm actually going to kind of break off of our little planned script here for a
Oh,
second. I just found this article literally written 14 hours ago on The Verge here. Microsoft pauses free Windows 365 cloud PC trial after significant demand. Like,
Rip Scaroni.
yeah, rip Scaroni to that. That's a word. Um, but yeah, it didn't say. I was doing a little bit of a search here to see if we could find that out. Let me see. Bandwidth pricing will apply for network usage. It says Azure bandwidth pricing will apply for network usage. So basically, you're getting thrown into Azure, and then anything you use beyond that cutoff is just going to be billed as the normal Azure rate. So,
Hmm.
interesting. That's definitely an interesting move by them. We'll see. We will definitely see what happens. Well, the next article we have for you tonight, and I feel like this is just going to be kind of like a returning story on almost every podcast that we do here. It's about Boeing, and they scrubbed the launch of their Starliner due to some issues here. And long story short, what wound up happening is it was problems with the valves on the capsule's propellant system. And then some weather and a bunch of other things just kind of made the perfect storm, per se, to delay uh, Boeing's flight. So,
And that was even after they got delayed from last Friday's flight because the Russians were having issues with a new lab module. So it's not. People at Boeing are probably really not happy right now. You can't really control the weather. That's understandable, but there are things that are certainly in their control. And they were saying that the weather was potentially the source of the valve issue. So who knows? Currently, there actually is no set date to relaunch the Starliner. So I would be not happy if I was a Boeing exec right now.
definitely.
I'd be happy that they caught the valve thing before it blew up. I can't remember how many spaceships have blown up that way.
That's true.
True.
And honestly, they have to make sure this one goes right, considering they had so many issues with the 2019 launch. So they're probably out of an abundance of caution, not even setting a new date, which is understandable.
Yeah, definitely. The thing that I find especially interesting about this is you have SpaceX here who's under a $2.6 billion NASA contract, and then Boeing is under $4.2 billion of NASA contract. I just find that interesting. I know the Boeing contract is much older than the SpaceX contract, and I'm pretty sure it was for a different purpose, but it's just interesting to see. So
Well,
Boeing's
if
just kind
if
of like
it's
flubbing all of this.
well, if it's older, they've probably blown through a lot of that money. And also, I feel like SpaceX is so much further along in the development of their systems to the point where, yeah, it might be half the contract, but they're they're utilizing that money better, and they're also just at a better point in their development stage, or at least their testing and proof of concept stage.
Right.
And when it's time to
They've already used the rockets to send people to the ISS, whereas Boeing can't even send an unmanned successful mission up there. So
Right.
when it's time to renew contracts, I imagine there'll be some reconsidering.
Yeah, I
yeah.
definitely
That or
think,
Boeing's gonna lobby heavy.
which I could see both happening. So,
Yeah.
alrighty. We'll see what happens with that. And hopefully they can get everything up there. I mean, I'm all for getting more stuff in space in terms of like companies and stuff like that, at least exploring it. I'm not for the space junk problem, but like at least people to get up there, do things outside the atmosphere and stuff like that. I think that's super cool. So hopefully Boeing can get their stuff together and work through it. Cool. Next article we have for you today is about Tesla. The Tesla Megapack battery burst into flames in Australia, but that's not the kind of the kicker here. It took 150 firefighters to put it out, and I completely understand why. I'm not sure. Well, actually, both of you guys probably would understand the implications of an electrical fire. So yeah.
yeah, not too good. Also, not just the fact that it took 150 or over 150 firefighters to put out the fire, but it took 4 days to put out that fire.
Good point. I was
So
hoping you'd mention that.
yeah, so bad news bears on top of bad news bears.
Right.
Yeah, it's not a fun one.
Yeah.
And they're not even easy to they're not as easy to put out. So it's understandable it took that long, but also I think it is a sort of cautioning story now that this has happened, that now they have an event to look back on and say, okay, we have to prevent this if we want to continue to push for these mega battery packs to be produced and put online across the world. It's something that they need to really make sure they prevent and test against to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Well, the lithium ones too are extra volatile.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
That's why, I mean, I know I touched on this last week, but he was talking about transitioning over to some kind of iron-based battery. And I have to imagine that'd be a lot less explosive.
Yeah, I remember in senior design, my senior year at Purdue, we had in our labs, we had big buckets of sand. And so if something were to happen, you just chucked it in the sand. I don't really know where the battery pack is, and I believe it's Australia. But maybe they could have a bucket, a sand bucket system where they could just dump a ton of sand on it and see if that works.
So
yeah, if by sand bucket you mean the bucket of like a dump truck to dump on it.
Yeah, I'm like, so you're just saying like, next to all these batteries, you think there should just be like a massive like silo full of sand that some poor guy can just go and pull a lever and just flood the thing.
I mean, I don't know about scaling the solution up if it actually works. It's me just spitballing and using a funny story about my past experiences and applying them to this. But I mean, who knows?
I mean, the problem is the battery weighs 13 tons.
There's your problem.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Just because you can scale up doesn't mean it will be effective.
Me being a child at heart here is imagining some helicopter just like coming, like picking up like the burning battery and just like chucking it in a thing of sand, like conveniently next to the bank of batteries here.
Well, I mean, currently we have helicopters that drop all kinds of chemicals and big tanks of water on wildfires. Who's to say they can't do the same thing with sand?
Who knows?
It'd be incredibly heavy, but
I know
waters too, right?
I know they do that. Something similar for nuclear disasters and stuff like that. They drop either sand or something else on it via helicopter. So who knows?
Leaded sand.
Something like that.
If only they dropped more sand at what was it in Russia? Chernobyl.
Yeah.
If only they had sand in Chernobyl.
Hey.
All they had was snow.
All they had was snow. Yeah.
Jeez. Well, we will see how that goes. Hopefully, this is whatever the issue was, whatever the fault was here. The design engineers at Tesla can figure out what the problem was and prevent that from happening again. I hope that they will be able to do that. So we'll see. We will see. Alrighty. Next article for you tonight is I think this is more or less of like an op-ed, I guess, but basically there's this new book that came out saying that Elon Musk cleaned house of any Tesla workers who disagreed or got in his way through a new book. Uh, and I really like how Insider does this. Little side note here. I love how they have this little like TLDR at the top of like every article. Like I think that's great.
I don't trust it.
Yeah, just read the text then. Uh, but yeah, basically they're just kind of ranting about the work culture and how everything was dealt with in the very early days of Tesla here. Um, so this is kind of pivoting a little bit away from tech per se, but it's a technology company. And I want to get your guys' take on this. What's your opinions on CEOs like cleaning house of people who don't support their mission?
Yeah, well, so I read the article mostly in full, and it kind of details Musk is a very hands-on executive, which is no surprise, and it's very widely known. He sleeps in the factory, he lives near where production happens, especially with SpaceX. Um, in his case, though, I feel like it absolutely led to Tesla's issues. So specifically in the case of executives being very laser focused on their employees, with his case, it led to some issues. The article talks about how he fired a lot of executives and it seemed to have led to the production issues that the Model 3 ended up experiencing, which were pretty bad. It delayed the car by quite a bit, and it led to just a lot of concerns about the company. I think that it's good to have a CEO that is hands-on and wants to be in it. He really is more of an engineer than an executive, and he's even said and come out and said that he doesn't really like being a leader or like a CEO. He would rather be like an engineer. And I think it could actually benefit the company because it seems like his more hands-on role in the company has led to a bit of not downfalls, but pitfalls and issues and problems.
And I quote, Tesla stock price too high, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an issue, especially when your CEO is hampering, the production of your company when you're still trying to turn a profit. They just recently, I believe in the last quarter, just turned a profit, not only from selling their credits, but actually from car sales. So this is their first quarter where they were in the green or whatever it is on finance from car sales. That's really good, and that needs to continue, and that won't continue if Musk is so hands-on and wants to fire people. It creates a toxic work environment. And actually, there's another article that I didn't submit, but I just wanted to just quickly touch on that is related. There was an article or a few articles that came out this week that Elon Musk wanted the Model Y to not have a steering wheel, and the team that designed the Model Y did so anyway behind his back. That to me does not sound like a good work environment and not a company that is going to succeed.
Interesting point.
Ryan?
So here's the thing. There's a part of me that's immediately negative, I guess, towards whoever wrote this book, just because it seems like such an obvious way to make money to me. Just because of who Musk is and all that stuff, to where yeah, you went and write a book, you're going to sell a lot of copies of that versus, doing maybe a more normal thing and just like going around and telling everybody that you can instead of writing a book about it. That being said, I mean I can obviously see him being a little like very much controlling over the company and all that. I mean, a lot of these CEOs have been in the past. I'm sure everyone's heard of like the legendary meltdowns of Steve Jobs where he asked them to make the iPod smaller. And they said, we literally can't do that. And then he took it, dropped it in the fish tank, and he said, see those bubbles? You can make it smaller.
I didn't know
So I
about
can
that.
imagine it. It's probably, what's the word, apocryphal, but I mean it illustrates the point that like he was brutal. Um yeah, on the whole, I mean I definitely believe him when he says he has Asperger's and all that. It makes for probably a very different kind of uh manager than you might get at a different company. Although I will say, after working at a few places, people that kind of work culture where you hide things from higher ups is not as uncommon as you'd think.
I could see
Like
it.
there's a lot of them that's just kind of a part of it because people start to micromanage and stuff. So you kind of the kind of individual teams kind of become more like cells than like an integrated team to the rest of the company. But anyway, I digress. The point being, I'm not very satisfied with how the person went about bringing this up and all that, and they might be telling the truth regardless. Because, I mean, it wouldn't shock me to learn that he's pretty, he's a little bit of a martinet.
I could see it. I could definitely see it. Well, this is kind of changing gears a little bit, but the next story we have for you here is about some of the wildfires out west. And as you may or may not know, there's a lot of wildfires out in the west coast of the U.S. right now, and there's a lot of just turmoil out there with these fires. But in the fight for these fires, basically, there's new startups and technology that's actually coming out of this using satellite imagery and other artificial intelligence and all that stuff to basically determine where fires are going to spread and then alerting people in certain areas much sooner before the fires would affect them based on the rate of spread and all sorts of stuff like that. Basically, just saying like, hey, there's a lot of technology that's hopefully going to come out in the next couple of years with stuff like that. And in my opinion, this is a wonderful application of satellite technology and any form of artificial intelligence and predicting that we can do to basically save people's lives. In my opinion, I think this is somewhere where artificial intelligence can really help, but only if done correctly. There's the very, very big kicker on that. So, thoughts?
I mean, yeah, I imagine it's going to target at-risk places. I don't think it's to do anything to prevent the actual fires because that seems somewhat policy based for California. As someone who lived there for a while, it's a mess. They won't even let you like clear brush back from your house as to a certain distance, which would probably stop your house from getting burnt down.
Hmm.
It's yeah, it's a regulatory disaster.
Hmm. I never thought about that, honestly.
Ah man, it's I when I was out there, there was highways on fire most of the summer.
Jeez. Yeah. As someone, as an outsider looking in, I've never lived out west. I've only lived in, well, two states, both in the Midwest. Yeah, as
As
an
a
outsider
Western
looking,
native,
yeah, as an outsider looking in, yeah, technology will help reduce the spread of a fire that's already occurring and will help save lives when a fire occurs. But I think that there needs to be more proactive measures being taken, whether that is through regulatory measures of being able to, clear out old brush, or if there's some sort of new technology or drones that can be utilized maybe to, survey areas and check for old trees or debris that could possibly be removed that would otherwise be set ablaze very easily. I think that could be very helpful.
Yeah, it's I find that unlikely. I think what's going to end up being the best case is going to be
Uh-oh.
basically this being able to identify at-risk areas.
Yeah, I could see that happening. For some reason, Ryan, you're frozen. That's super weird.
Yeah, I was frozen. A really flattering image of myself while I was talking there for a while. Oh, geez.
Geez.
Oh, geez, Fitz.
Geez. Alrighty, here.
That fix it?
No, that did not. Give me 1 second here.
Oh, you can all
There
look
we
at
go.
that.
We're good.
I like
Got
I
it.
that
was
picture
gonna
of my
say, you
face.
could try the old turn it off and on trick.
That's literally what I did. I turned off his source and then I turned it back on again. Good old advice
There
for
we go.
anybody who has any tech issues. Turn it off and back on again and then escalate it to somebody who knows. So that usually fixes like 95% of problems.
That's always question one.
Exactly.
True.
Exactly.
True.
Well, moving on to our next article here. This is actually a really cool article, which is research from all of our alma mater here. Purdue University came out with some pretty cool research, in my opinion. Basically saying that dark mode may not save your phone's battery life as much as you think. Long story short, this is a really interesting article. I highly encourage you giving this article a read on the Purdue Newsroom. If you scroll down far enough, you may see yours truly somewhere else on there. So give you something to look for. But
Man, just keep stroking your ego, man. Jeez.
but anyway, so long story short, it boils down to your screen technology in your phone. Basically, OLED organic light emitting diode screens don't have a traditional backlight like a liquid crystal display screen. So most phones that came out after 2017 basically can turn the light in a specific area on and off instead of having one big light on in the background and only preventing some light from showing through. Now that's supposedly a very good advancement for battery life, but basically, as this article says, basically they're seeing 3 to 9% power savings on when switching into your dark mode on an OLED screen. So basically, you can switch your phone from light mode, where everything's nice and white, to dark mode, where everything's black and dark. And basically, doing that with that specific type of screen saves 3 to 9% of battery, which kind of shows. The one thing that I found really interesting is this first scenario here where they talk about the Purdue study found that switching from light mode to dark mode at 100% brightness on a sunny day saves 39 to 47% of battery power. Like, that's pretty big on a sunny day because of the way the colors switch on the screen, basically. That's my thought.
So, I mean, there is one clarifying thing though about that that 3 to 9%. That is specifically when your phone is at 30 to 50% brightness, so mid-range brightness. So basically, you're saying at mid-range brightness, you're not going to get a good benefit, but if you're at maximum brightness, you're going to get a significant benefit, which it does make sense to me. And essentially, what they're saying, they're still backing up their claim that dark mode doesn't really help that much when you're at a lower brightness level, but when you're at a higher brightness level, it's very obviously going to affect it. And when your phone's hot out in a sunny day, that'll also affect it too. One other qualifying thing or thing to note about this study, it was done purely on Google Apps and then also purely on Android phones, so not on any iOS devices. Not to say that that also can't be true for iOS devices, but it can only hold if it can hold for iOS devices for anything after the iPhone 10, or essentially any iPhone that has, or anything that has an iPhone, or any iPhone that has a OLED screen. So it's
Well, here's the qualifier. I don't know what iPhone's dark mode looks like. But one of the reasons it doesn't actually save as much as you'd think it would is because when you put on a dark mode, it's not true black on most of the screen, like would be implied normally. It's more like a lot of grays and like light hues like that.
Right, where
What
you're having,
really,
yeah,
what would truly like get you that power saving is if you went true black on most of the screen, because then those pixels are completely off. They're not on at all.
that's the qualifier right there. Yeah. Even
Yeah.
even if they're on just a little bit, that's still using electricity. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a minimum amount you're going to need to turn the pixels on.
Well,
What
that's
I'm
why the
saying,
study. Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
oh no, what I'm just saying is you could actually fix that in software if companies implemented their dark mode as like mostly true black.
So it's interesting you did say that because part of the article kind of touts the prowess of this software that the researchers developed to study the power savings. And so I believe they're trying to either monetize it or pan it off to other companies to use it to try and tune their hardware such that they can actually really get the maximum power savings out of their devices that are on AMOLED or OLED screen technology. But I'm pretty sure, I mean, it is, and I guess maybe I haven't looked in this as much as I could have, but I thought because they're OLED screens that technology is inherently just turning on and off pixels, that it's not just dimming down the color of the screen like a typical LED screen would.
Well, each pixel provides its own light, so you don't need a
Right.
backlight. So when you do true black, you technically get what they call infinite contrast because true black isn't like there's not a backlight behind it and the pixels trying to block light. It's just there's no light coming from there, so it's just black.
Yeah, the pixels just off, right?
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
why but grays are still require power is the
right,
thing.
exactly.
And if you look
Yeah.
at most dark modes and all that, there's a lot of grays. It's not all like true black.
Well, you got to be careful there though, because the study specifically on this dark mode was done for the apps themselves, not
Yeah.
exactly the phone. So you can't fault the phone for that.
I can
that
fault
power
dark
savings
modes in general.
technically.
I can just fault
Sure,
all dark
sure,
modes because phones too, it's mostly grays.
Right.
sure.
I'm looking, I have a phone right here. The dark mode is mostly gray instead of like
Sure.
true black and providing like little areas that are lit up.
Well, I think the brilliant part here about the entire article and all the research that they've done is you hinted to this a little earlier, Grislow, basically where these researchers are now able to develop software that can give you a profile of how your app is doing in terms of energy savings and how uh embracive of dark mode. Embracive, I don't even know if that's a word,
Yeah.
but like how
I
well
wouldn't
you
mind.
embrace dark mode. So
Yeah, I wouldn't mind some changes to where you could have, light mode, dark mode, and then like, I don't know,
super
Gray
dark.
mode
midnight. I don't know what you want to call it.
or even
Extra
more.
dark.
I then at that point I would just ask that dark mode is truly dark mode. That it's not gray
Yeah.
mode.
Well, I imagine they made that decision for aesthetic reasons.
100%. I am
So
sure.
I have to imagine the grays look better than just having like voids of black all over your screen, but I digress.
I mean, with the always on displays, a dark mode is imperative. The whole point of that is just to really only turn on the pixels you need and to show the pertinent information that is very small comparative to anything else that notifications or whatever, like on my watch.
Oh yeah, it still uses less power. It's just there is still a little bit of power needed to turn those pixels on, so it's still not living up to its full potential.
But at that point, is it really software or is it just hardware limitations?
No, it's software. You take the pixel and you tell it to be black.
Yes.
Because then it knows not to turn on instead of telling it to be gray.
Yes, because
I don't know. To me, it seems like pretty true black.
well, in some case, I mean, I'm not sure about iPhone stuff or anything like that with the dark mode in particular, but definitely for Android, I've seen apps that have your light mode, your dark mode, and then basically like like midnight dark mode or something like that, where they will physically tell the screen, I don't need any light on this entire area here. Only turn on these ones at like full brightness, like this specific pixel for like an email. I know my email app does that. So I can say, okay, I want light mode, dark mode, and like super dark mode, where it's gonna basically turn that into just turn it off and save that energy. So even some phones
Yeah, I mean,
power
I think
savers mode do exactly that, where they only limit certain processes and give you a very, very, very black and reduced UI so you can save as much battery life as possible.
Yeah, I think ultimately maybe dark mode for the apps, specifically for the apps. Um, all these Android apps. It was YouTube. It was I don't know if it was Gmail. There were 6 Android or Google apps.
Yeah,
To me, I think they just need to. They can't quite say they're dark mode.
they
Maybe a
can't.
better way of branding
They're
it
gray.
is maybe okay. Well, yes, right. I mean, like so. For example, I have YouTube pulled up. Where's my camera?
So
Right
do
here.
I.
And you can see that. I mean, that's black. That's not so black. Now, granted, I don't have a screen or a phone with an OLED screen, but yeah, you're absolutely right. This is not true black. I think they can't really, or they shouldn't be calling them dark mode, because I think that implies that it truly is a full black experience. I think maybe they should call it like, I don't know, something that has to do with being easy on the eyes, because ultimately that's kind of the point of dark
Monochrome.
mode. Yeah, like some sort of like, I don't know,
Call it
like
noir mode,
reduced.
like an old
Nah, you
There
got
you
to
noir
be
go.
careful
movie.
with that
I
though,
could see
because
it.
that has to do with color temperature, and that will change the screen in a different way,
What,
not
I know, it's just
sepia
an
quite.
or
expression.
something like it? I
Yeah,
don't, grayscale mode. There you go.
yeah. I think grayscale would probably be a better way to brand this, because I think dark mode is a little it's a little in what's the word I'm looking for? It makes people have a wrong impression of what actually is happening.
Well, I agree, and good job by the researchers over at Purdue to take care of that and answer a pretty age old question. I didn't
Hail
have this.
Purdue.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have the specific
Age old.
professor, but go ECE. I didn't graduate
What
from
professor
ECE.
was it?
Professor, give me one second.
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't think I had the professor, but
uh, Charlie Who?
yeah, no.
Who?
Stop.
Boo. No.
Gosh, always with
Actually,
the
no, that gets
humor.
2 thumbs down.
Boo
That was
hoo, boo
bad.
hoo.
Yeah, no, that was for you. Boo hoo, boo. Jeez, Ryan.
Stop.
No.
When will it stop? But anyway, moving on to actually something else college related here. In the coming, this was from the Apple newsroom. I thank you to Grislow for submitting this one. Uh, Student IDs are coming to iPhone and Apple Watch. Basically, it's expanding to more universities. There's an example here for Auburn. And they detailed a bunch of schools down here: University of New Brunswick, Sheridan College, Northern Arizona University, Auburn, University of Maine, New Mexico State, and many other colleges. That's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool to have it on your phone. The only issue is when you're having a good time, your phone dies, you don't have your ID card with you, and you can't get into wherever you live. So that's my only thought.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Um, the only reason I sent this article in was I already knew that after WWDC this year, Apple was pushing for more and more cards to be put on and identification to be put on Apple Wallet. So our passports, or not passports, but driver's licenses and other things. I didn't realize that they already, because this article implies that this has already started, that they've already been using Apple student IDs. I didn't realize that was already a thing, and even if it wasn't, I didn't realize that was going to be a thing. And I think you bring up a really good point. Yeah, if your phone dies and you're out, at a friend's place, or you're even just out, studying, and you go back to your dorm and your phone's dead and you don't have a charger with you, which, I mean, let's be honest, like, it doesn't happen all the time. It's 2021. Like, everyone's got a charger cable on them now, but it happens, right? You forget a charging cable and now you can't get it into your dorm. That is sort of a problem. And also, in another instance, let's say another scenario, your phone dies and you need to get into the dining court to get food, and now you can't get in because you don't have your student ID. I think, though, the point of this is to have an alternative means of identification, so you don't have to carry around your physical student ID, just like they're trying to make it so you don't have to physically carry around, your credit card, your debit card, your driver's license. But that's not to say that you should not carry around all of those things anyway, even if you have them on your phone. Having them on your phone is just a way to have a more convenient way of transporting these things. And I don't recommend going around putting all of your cards on your phone and not also carrying around the physical card. That's not a good idea. I do not recommend that.
Yeah, very good point.
So my question is this through Apple Wallet or is this through their own apps?
It's
through Apple Wallet.
Okay, never mind.
And
I was about to say I hated this because I don't know what data that universities collected on me, but
very real. Yeah, that's a real concern.
no,
too,
but if it's through Apple Wallets, it's probably, then it's just Apple collecting data on you, which is normal.
To quote the article here,
I hate that it is, but
I mean, it's not. They're not really collecting that data, at least from everything.
Oh, they are. They just don't really sell it, I don't think.
Well, you can opt in to sharing data, especially like, for example, when something happens to your phone. But also, a lot of the like encryption and personal things stay on device, so they don't go out.
Don't forget.
Yeah, sure, but there's still probably
you could be skeptical about it, but that's
Listen,
the reality of it. Apple
location,
privacy for at least last 3 or 4 years, and being
that's fine, and you can say that all. They can say that all they want, and they're still going to grab your location. They're still going to grab probably AdSense kind of things, those kind of things. Just end of the day.
I could see it, and here's
I understand that they're probably not selling it to anyone, and they're probably using it for their own products and services. I get that. I don't trust anybody.
That's fair to be skeptical, but you could be skeptical all you want.
I'm telling you.
You still have to.
I promise you. I'm going to go.
You at some point have to give in to at least what we all believe to be the truth. That's fair. There are plenty of conspiracies that have proven to be true, and this could be a conspiracy that could be proven to be true.
I'm not saying a conspiracy. I'm saying, listen, maybe I'll come back next week after reading their terms and service, all right? But I promise you they're collecting some data in order to, at the very least, deal with their own services.
Collecting data on location is far different than collecting data
I'm not saying
your credit cards and your...
Oh, no, I'm not saying they're doing anything like that. I'm just saying that they are collecting some data on you.
Right, and either way, your university is going to have access logs of whatever you do. That's just inherent, whether you have
yeah. No. I had imagined this is going to be the university's own app.
No,
that's how I had imagined it in my head, because I guess I didn't read it carefully enough. And then, if that's the case, I would imagine that the university is trying to ping your location. The university is trying to get whatever they can about you.
And they even do.
By the way, Ryan, I'd give you $10 to read all of Apple's terms of services terms of service, because ain't no chance you're getting me to do that.
You know what? I have a Kindle. I'll download it on that and I'll read it.
Happy reading.
Yeah, have fun. I can only stomach so much legalese. Oh, jeez.
Maybe I'll find, what do you call it? Maybe someone's gone through and highlighted the important parts for me.
The TLDR.
It'll be just as exciting as reading U.S. tax codes. I guarantee.
Speaking of U.S. tax codes, no.
Alrighty, speaking of which, our next actually, you're going to have to take out a second mortgage to get this one, but Qualcomm and Asus made a phone for Snapdragon insiders. The $1,500 handset comes with a pair of Master and Dynamic wireless ANC earbuds. So Ryan, I'm going to let you take this one. You were
sure. I love this.
Yeah, you were gung ho on this. So
to start with, the headphones I think are like $200 regardless. But I like this just as like a concept. I don't know who it's for, who's actually going to buy it, to be honest. But I like the idea because it's seems like Snapdragon was like, all right, a lot of people are starting to make their custom silicon. Let's really put out what we think we can do with our device and all that. And they partnered with Asus to build it. But I mean, it's a top of the line phone. I mean, it's 144 refresh rate, you know, beautiful screen, you know, the whole set of 3 cameras.
Wi-Fi
And what
6.
actually, yeah, Wi-Fi 6, all that, 5G, all that good stuff. What actually popped out to me was this new thing, I guess they're pushing called Snapdragon Sound that I hadn't heard of before. If you use an Android phone, you know about aptX, which is their custom audio codec that's really, really good. And if you're on an Android and you're getting anything audio related, I recommend trying to get that because AAC doesn't always play well with Android's code base. But I thought this was really interesting. It's basically like all of their codec and all the cool stuff with that packed into, I guess, one kind of name versus normal. So it's 24-bit 96 kilohertz audio, which for those of you who know what that means, it means it sounds very, very good, which is really impressive for wireless to be 24-bit 96 kilohertz.
Definitely, and it's cool too because I'm not super duper familiar with the phones that Asus has in their lineup now, but
Oh, I am. They're really nice, actually.
okay, yeah, it's nice to see another challenger approaches like that type
Yeah.
of thing. So it's good to see. I mean, the one thing that I'm just a little skeptical about is like I get why they're doing this. Why does it have to be $1,500?
I don't know why it has to come with the headphones are worth 200, so let's knock it down to 13, but still.
So let's halt for a second there. I mean, this is a premium smartphone, and it's competing in the premium smartphone market. This goes up against a lot of the other premium brand smartphones. With the iPhones, the Samsungs. I mean, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds to me like it has a higher refresh rate than the Samsungs. It absolutely does than the iPhones.
Probably the same. Probably the
It's
same
got-
as the Samsungs.
It's got. I mean, I don't know if it has better cameras than the Samsung, but it absolutely does.
It'll be
have better-
comparable.
It has better sensors than the iPhone for sure. It's a sleek, bodied phone. It's really nice looking. It's got 5G. I think it also says sub 5 millimeter, which is like the good kind. And it basically has this like the step below the best Snapdragon chip. And what was it? 512 gigs of storage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
probably
it's
the biggest
loaded.
downside to it. But other than that, in the premium smartphone market, I think it actually fares pretty well. And not just that it's a really good phone in that market, and you're paying for it in baked into the cost of the phone, but you're getting those headphones. And you're also taking advantage of that technology. I think it's a really interesting phone. This article is actually a few weeks old. It just went on sale, I believe, or started getting pre-orders as of like last 2 days or 3 days. But I think it's really cool, ultimately, that Qualcomm is starting a little foray into the smartphone market. They're the people that have been behind all the chips that go into the crazy phones. And not only that, but we're seeing all of these smartphone companies make their own chips for their phones. So not only are they making chips, but they're making their own chips, and now they're put in their own phones. So the technology and the code, the software have a good kind of synchronization, and that can only be optimized over time.
Yeah, hopefully Snapdragon has a few tricks to really get a lot of the extra features and really, I imagine they have to know how to push their hardware better than anybody.
Yeah, right.
Side note, a 512 gigabit iPhone 12 Pro is $1,300, so the same price.
Yeah,
Interesting.
no, it's
If you knock
competitive
off for the
price.
headphones, that is.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is competitive in price. And honestly, I think that people will want to take advantage of the technology and they'll probably end up buying those wireless earbuds anyway.
Yeah, I
My biggest
imagine.
question though is what software is that phone running? What
Oh, it's
version of
running
Android?
Android.
Android 11.
Newest version, it'll be running Asus's. I believe it's called the one. It's either Zen UI or I think it's Zen UI, right?
Something like that.
I'm pretty sure that's Zen UI. One UI is someone else.
Yeah,
Oh, I know the answer. It's on the tip of my tongue. I just can't remember.
Yeah, but it's definitely Zen UI because they have their Zen phone, their Zen phone Flip, and then they have the ROG phone.
I mean, is the software any good
Yeah,
comparatively
that's
to
actually
like
one of my
other
favorites.
phones? Really?
Yeah, it's not my favorite. My favorite is still probably OnePlus's version of Android, and then Google's behind it. But it's probably like my third or fourth favorite.
Okay, good to know. Well, one other feature that is going to be coming to Android, I guess you could say, um, with the introduction of MagSafe, is this new technology called Realme, the MagDart, Magnetic Wireless Charging Service. So basically, long story short, it's basically an Android version of MagSafe, where you can basically add a battery pack, you could charge it, you could do all this normal stuff that you could do with MagSafe stuff, but it's MagDart, and they're not compatible with each other. So take that with a grain of salt. Uh, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that. What do you guys think about this?
It's third party MagSafe on steroids. That's what it is. I mean, Apple does not have what is it, 50-watt puck charger for
No,
their
Apple doesn't charge
MagSafe
anything
phones.
quickly.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's not a thing. The technology is barely a year old, or at least put into production into a phone that's publicly available. Barely been out for a year.
Yeah, no, wireless charging that fast is insane.
Yeah, it's absurd. I think it's cool because from what I was seeing and what I was hoping after MagSafe came out would be that third-party accessory makers would start making phones, cases, and accessories for phones that didn't already have MagSafe, so older iPhones and Android phones, and make them compatible with the technology. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for it to happen for the iPhone, and it really hasn't happened. And this seems to be one of the first instances where a third-party developer has successfully created the technology, not only for the charging, but they have case accessories and wallets and stuff too. Actually, one of the cooler ones, one of the cooler accessories is it's kind of like a ring light that flips up from the back of the phone, and it's for taking selfies, which I think is kind of cool. It's interesting, and it's different from other things that I've seen. I haven't really seen anything like that yet. I've just seen kind of like big attachments, nothing that kind of is more discreet and flips down to the back of the phone. But yeah, I've been looking and waiting for this to happen with other third-party accessory makers, and the fact that it's coming to Android, I think, is really cool. Now the question is, how quickly can they expand it to support a wide range of phones, and then also how can they make that 50-watt technology smaller? Because right now they have to have, and which you'll probably never get around, but they have to have a fan in there, and it's fairly bulky. It's not like
It
Apple's
throws a lot of
sleek
heat.
puck.
Right.
But the reason is because it's 50 watts.
Yeah,
Right.
I think we actually touched on this either 1 or 2 episodes ago. 50-watt wireless charging is just unnecessary.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
15. How about 15? That's good enough.
But the interesting thing here, and something they mentioned in the article, and something that I don't put past Apple doing. Apple's goal is to have this sleek, slender, all glass slab. No ports, no physical buttons, nothing
screen.
that can get water in it and damage the phone. So at least to me, MagSafe is a test run of, can this technology work? Will people take to it, and take to it so much so that we can and optimize it so much so that we can get rid of the charging port. Now you throw on this 50-watt wireless charger. Well, shoot, why do you need a wired charger? Now, technically, this is not true wireless. I understand that. But this is sort of, I guess, like a hybrid between the two technologies that I think is more likely to sort of invade the market, because we're not going to get crazy wireless charging for a long time. They're working on in room like beaming technology, but it's really slow and it's incredibly energy inefficient and costly. So I think this technology, if it can be optimized, made smaller, faster, even despite it already being incredibly fast, I see this kind of being a new charging solution for a lot of people, much more so than conventional wireless charging.
Yeah,
I could see
I
it.
mean there is in existence a 50-watt like genuinely wireless charger, but that's only for OnePlus, and it also needs a fan because, I mean, it just throws so much heat.
I mean, yeah, how could it not?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I don't know,
Honestly, I would love to see some like gaming versions of this, with the RGB lights and like water cooling.
There you go.
I can
That's
see
going.
I can see what's the company. I can see Razer doing that if they haven't already. Razer,
Asus.
hire me. I just gave you your next big $1 million idea.
I'm surprised Asus hasn't done it for their ROG phones already, because those literally have RGBs along the back. It's crazy.
Weird. That's nuts. Well, speaking of gaming here, our next article is about Facebook. And Facebook recalled 4 million Oculus Quest 2 headset components. Long story short, they recalled the like face shield for their Oculus Quest 2 headsets. And long story short, there were skin irritations, and people had to go to the hospital and get like skin rashes and stuff treated. Basically, they just realized, there's trace amounts of skin irritant in this plastic in the manufacturing. So what they're going to do is they're just going to put like a silicone, basically like cap over it to prevent that from happening. And they halted their sales actually to fix that issue while they're getting everything worked out here. So kind of crazy, that's for sure.
My biggest question is, why would they opt to make these protectors, these covers, versus just making a silicone face shield or face bumper?
So the cloth headsets are actually much more comfortable and breathable. That's the big thing. They're breathable. So like silicone,
I'm pretty sure they're also cheaper.
That too. But yeah, like if you have a piece of cloth against your face as opposed to like basically a piece of rubber, you're gonna have to like rip it off when you're done, and that's gonna hurt. It's not gonna be breathable. You're gonna be sweaty, like.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
But I mean, if they're gonna include these, if they're halting production or sales to put these in every box, that implies that they're almost expecting most users, especially out of abundance of caution, to put this on the product as soon as they get it. So in that case, why don't they just create a silicone bumper and
they might now.
They might now, yeah.
They might now. I don't think they expected this. This is a recall. They probably did tests and stuff with in-house and all that. No one had issues. But you scale that up to all of a sudden you're selling, I don't know, 50 million of these, and all of a sudden you might have a bigger percentage of people who have, I'm going to guess, sensitive skin, because I know people who have Quest 2s and they've never experienced that.
Right. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Fitz, but I believe it was only something like 47 or somewhere in the upper 40s number of complaints, at least recently, if not since last November, December.
In the article here, it says that after more than 5,000 users reported it caused skin irritation and 45 users needed medical attention.
Okay.
That'd be why. I imagine.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I imagine it's something they just really weren't expecting, and just all of a sudden, you start scaling stuff up, and a 0.01% percentage thing looks a lot worse.
Right. Definitely.
I mean, I guess the other point that I would like to bring up is if that's the case and they're having to produce these new silicone covers or alternatively replacing these cloth inserts with silicone ones, I think they should probably, or why aren't they, doing a more thorough investigation of the manufacturing process and trying to find alternatives for this skinnier tint that's showing up
Oh, they probably will
in
now.
their product.
Right. Oh, 100%. Yeah, they're
They
definitely
probably will now. I'm pretty sure they have something similar on the Rift S, but it didn't come up in that for some reason. So maybe
Mhm.
they went with a different manufacturer this time. Maybe something changed person to person. I don't know.
Who knows?
I imagine from now on, though, they'll do what you just said and like actually really look into this because recalls are not something any company wants to go through.
Right. They're not
Absolutely.
fun. Well, anyway, moving on to our next article here. We're going to go through this one relatively quickly because it's mostly speculation. But Intel leaked shows Thunderbolt speeds could double sometime soon. Long story short, a bunch of tech watchdog peoples saw some executives at Intel tweet some pictures with some pictures in the background suggesting that Thunderbolt 5 could have a higher speed. I forget where here it is, 80G PHY technology. So perhaps 80 gigabit per second. Who knows? Like, I don't know. It's very big speculation, but we'll see.
Yeah, I tend to try and not send in stories about leaks and things just because nothing can really ever be confirmed. And I personally like more to talk about the products when they come out or the technology when it comes out because it's much more reliable to get it from the source than to get it from a secondhand, source who may have seen it or not. But this to me was actually really important to send just because this would potentially double the speed of Thunderbolt as it is right now, and they hadn't done much with the previous iteration of Thunderbolt. And so I think this would be a massive improvement. And also considering the circumstances of them, taking it down and it being kind of hush hush, it seems very likely that this is going to happen. And if that is the case, I'm pretty excited for this.
Yeah, it'll be pretty cool.
Yep,
Definitely.
it's cool. I don't know. I feel like Thunderbolt, there's not a lot that normal people get out of it. Maybe there's some really good, what do you call it?
We'll see. Like accessories.
Desktop.
Yeah.
Like the desktop things with all the IO on them. I'm losing the word for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Or like docks.
Docks, thank you.
There you go.
Maybe there's some really good docks and stuff that might actually still benefit from this, but 80 gigs a second, man, seems more like very much like a power user thing.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool. Well, we'll see. Hopefully that's fact and not just a bunch of lies. So
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
on
I
you,
don't think you're gonna
Intel.
get this on your Lightning cables or USB-C, like Apple cables.
Well, Thunderbolt's a USB-C cable now.
Good point.
Right.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Next article we have here. I know I want to save a little bit of time. We're running pretty decently. The next couple stories after this one, Ryan really wants to talk about. So one of the articles that I have here is just kind of one of these like kind of like mishmash articles from Forbes. Basically, will Amazon accept crypto? Hint: the answer is no. But what I wanted to talk about here is this section of the article here. A man used AI to bring back his deceased fiance, but the creators of the tech warned it could be dangerous and used to spread misinformation. Long story short, there's a new service out there that will allow you to basically provide information from a somebody who is deceased or something like that, and it will create an AI based on their personality, what it learned from those messages and such. So somebody did this to bring back his fiance, and this can be very bad.
I hate this.
So
this was a plot of a movie. I love that cup, by the way, Ryan. R.I.P. to the cactus. Yeah, no, this is don't remember what movie it was, and I was trying to find it
Her?
before the show, and I couldn't.
It's Her.
Um,
I'm like 95% sure.
well, Her wasn't a deceased person. It was a advanced AI, as far as I'm aware, and from what I remember from the movie.
I think so.
But no, there's a movie where someone does bring back their deceased family member or like wife or something, and it goes awry because science fiction movies go that way. But so the article that is attached to that through Business Insider goes on to say that this technology is actually derived from one of Elon Musk's companies, OpenAI, and it's based off of the second version or third version of the software. They had limited access to the software because Elon Musk had said that people have to understand the consequences of this and fully recognize that before it's more widely available. And it's a really sad case of this use case of this software. I mean, yeah, I can understand someone grieving the loss of their loved one, a brother, sister, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever, boyfriend. But this does not lead to a healthy lifestyle, and it doesn't really help someone fully move on. And so I'm not quite sure if this is really technology that's being used for the greater good.
Ugh, I hate this. Makes me all kinds of uncomfortable.
Alrighty, let's hear it. Is that
No, that's
just
the
it?
extent.
Oh, okay.
That's it.
For sure.
I mean, obviously, it could be abused and misused and all that. It's just it really makes me like deeply uncomfortable that people do this.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can lead to, and as the article suggests, people being able to create, fake people and using it to scam people, and basically using this technology for nefarious purposes. Which it's not the first time you'll ever hear me say this or anyone say this, and it's not the last time. This has been an issue with chatbots and technology for ages, especially since technology started, right? And I think what also accelerated this sort of discussion was, I can't remember what the name of the project was, but when Google came out with their like AI chatbot that could call people and, for example, make haircut appointments or call and make a reservation, and it made it sound like a really convincing person on the one side of the line.
Starts with an A.
Google Assistant could do that.
No, it's a different thing. It's like not
I don't know. On the Pixel phones, you could do a lot of crazy stuff. Back when Pixel had what was it? The neural core, I think, is what they called it. Neural engine, something like that.
Duplex.
I think that's the Pixel 3.
Google Duplex is the name of that.
Right. Yeah, and that's what, 2 years older or so, maybe 3.
2018. So
yeah, so 3 years.
3 years.
But yeah, I mean, this technology like this, and the fear that this technology is going to be used for nefarious purposes, is always going to be around. It's whether or not people use it for good purposes and also just healthy lifestyle purposes. Like I said, I don't really think that something like this, where you resurrect a loved one, is really healthy for a grieving individual. Yeah, it's not. It's sad.
That's like, dude, that's like 3 steps from plotting world domination after your wife dies.
I don't quite think it goes that far.
Okay.
But
listen, I could work this into the plot. I can work this into the plot of a superhero movie. A grieving person's trying to bring back his wife at any cost. All right, I can work this into a movie.
I mean, like I said at the beginning, I mean, this is the plot of science fiction where it usually does go kind of awry.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, and more of the story here. I don't really think this technology is good for this purpose, and it's not healthy for people.
Right.
People have to move on. They have to accept death. They have to accept the reality of death. It's hard to do, and it's a way of life, but you have to be able to do it.
All right, this is a tech
Welcome to Philosophy
podcast.
Talk Nation. Welcome to Philosophy Talk Nation.
There we go. But anyway, yes, I completely agree with you. And we'll see where this goes. I just don't want a million Karen bots trolling me on Twitter, telling me wrong information. So we'll leave it at that. The next 2 articles here, Ryan really wants to talk about. The first one we have here is the SEC needing more power from Congress to fully regulate the crypto. like crypto markets and stuff like that. And then the next article we have after that is about a new Ethereum fork that will help
Yes,
Ethereum outpace Bitcoin. Pantera, or the CEO of this capital company predicts. So yeah, I'd love to hear your take on these two, Ryan.
absolutely. As usual, I am not a financial advisor. None of us are financial advisors. Take everything we say with several grains of salt.
Or a chunk.
That being said, um, the whole SEC wanting to like step up the regulation really, really irritates me. Um, I'm just kind of angry at them in general because it's this kind of regulation of things like the US dollar and all that. I mean, that's kind of what ended up spawning crypto in the first place. Is everyone was, or I imagine, for example, Satoshi and all that were kind of fed up with the way current fiat money works. And if you talk to like a lot of the people who are really into crypto, we all, a lot of us don't like fiat at all because it is subject to so much manipulation and regulation and all that. Like, for example, I mean, what's this? What's inflation? It's been like 5% month over month for 4 or 5 months now,
Something
something
like
along
that.
those
Like
lines.
it's increasing at a very high rate.
Yeah, it's these kind of government stepping in and all that that leads to these like rapid, wild, uh, kind of less predictable swings because someone's stepping in out of nowhere to try and regulate and try and change a market from being a free market to being a controlled like government or government regulated thing rather than this is a free market. It will work according to supply and demand.
Hmm. I can
And this
see
is
that.
honestly, this is going on a couple fronts right now. This is one of them. The recent infrastructure bill that we brought up earlier during the testing, God knows why someone decided to try and shove a bunch of crypto regulations in there as well. And the
Sounds
outcome
about right.
of those, yeah, someone decided they wanted to shove things. Honestly, it looks terrible. The outcome of the regulations they want to put in, it kind of makes it look like only like really big players can end up becoming crypto miners because of all the stupid legal minutia and blocks they're trying to like shove into everybody's way.
Hmm.
That was my take on trying to like read through and summarize those additions to the infrastructure bill.
Interesting.
But generally, to sum up my point, people created crypto because they were irritated with fiat regulation and fiat manipulation, and them stepping in annoys me deeply.
For the people that don't know, can you define fiat?
Oh, sure. Fiat's basically unbacked paper money. So fiat currency, I believe, is what we switched to. I want to say 64 was the last time we had any kind of material like one-to-one backing with our currency because that's when we eliminated silver from our coins. We went off the gold standard in the 30s,
Right.
I think. Yeah, something like that. So then fiat becomes basically just government-backed money. It's just the government saying like, "Hey, we're still printing currency. This is what we're going to use," and and there's not a like solid asset completely behind it. And we've kind of played with that a little bit in the forming of OPEC and all that. We kind of, because oil can only be purchased in US dollars. It's a whole geopolitical mess that we've kind of insinuated ourselves into, but that's the basics of fiat money. And it kind of spits in the face of how paper currency even came to be in the first place, which is really just to represent something physical that people value. And now
Crazy.
it's completely abstracted.
So
Right.
so how do you feel that with this new Ethereum shift, how do you feel like this is
Ah,
kind of relating the two?
sure. So this is interesting because one of the things that a lot of people who are down on fiat money, I'm admittedly one of them. Uh, I have to preface this by saying, once again, none of us are financial advisors at all. talk to a real one if you want to actually invest or do something with this. But the changes to Ethereum are going to be very, very interesting because, I mean, as is the case with basically all paper currency, and as is the case with the currency or with even cryptocurrency, is just by nature, it tends to be inflation. It tends to be inflationary, gosh, meaning you're expanding the supply of money basically for as long as its life cycle is. And I mean, in a normal like economy, that's you don't want to do a lot of inflation because that basically devalues your money and makes it worthless. Generally, you want just enough inflation so that everyone can, so that you have enough money to actually like go around and so everyone can hold a bill. There's a fine art and a certain like percentage of inflation to GDP that I think people generally consider ideal. That's getting into the weeds with economics. The new change to Ethereum completely bucks this in a very interesting way. The big headliner here is that when doing transactions on the Ethereum network, you generally pay for a transaction to be done, and you're paying the miner to basically carry out the transaction on their computer, and they generally take the pay, and at the same time they also get paid in Ethereum for doing the mining, more or less. So the really interesting part is now when you're making that payment, part of it is going to be burnt, is the word they use. So that's going to disappear from circulation. So all of a sudden, there's less Ethereum in supply. So if everyone liked to go back to high school economics with me, all of a sudden supply is going down, demand is theoretically staying the same. That means Ethereum could theoretically become a lot more valuable if this does end up having a deflationary effect, which would be very, very interesting and would probably see Ethereum eclipse Bitcoin faster than it may have already been headed.
I could see that. I could see that. It says it's it says you'll see one of the quotes in this article says you'll see a transition of people who want to store wealth doing it in Ether rather than just Bitcoin. Uh,
Yeah.
Basically saying that it will reduce the mining energy needed to mine the coin and basically help grow it bigger than Bitcoin per se because you
Yep.
have that you're going to pay that transaction cost, and with that transaction cost you're just going to basically burn some of that coin anyway. It doesn't go to the miner, it doesn't go to whatever. It just doesn't exist
Yeah, a
anymore.
certain base fee is getting burnt from the supply. There's some concern with how miners are going to react to this and whether or not they think their profits are going to go up or down. And that'll, factor into the success of this. Crypto is a very strange market compared to normal monetary system. So
True.
there's a little more balancing that goes in than just straight printing money. But it's a very, very interesting and radical change.
Definitely.
Because this is the first, I think, crypto asset to basically attempt to burn off some of its excess currency.
Right. Yeah, and we definitely will have to see when this all pans out and all of that stuff. It's going to be very interesting to see how the market reacts to a cryptocurrency that, in a way, is backed by an asset almost. I mean, you kind of have that with the way other things work too, and you could argue Bitcoin is backed with compute power and electricity as their assets, but
I
I don't know.
I mean, I think it's backed with no more or less than normal fiat money, in my opinion, right now. So
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well,
I think it has just about the same legitimacy of backing, in my opinion. So
we will.
it's not the same as having, a physical asset backing it, but I mean, normal money doesn't really have that anymore anyway.
True.
So
We will
Yeah.
see indeed.
I mean, I think in the end, it just kind of makes specifically this type of cryptocurrency a little more feasible to be used more just because it has the ability to kind of shirk the sort of inflation fears that you could incur with cryptocurrency. And I think it is kind of unique that they're doing this, and not to mention that Ethereum is on the rise, and it can be seen neck and neck with Bitcoin. This absolutely pushes it past it. What I'm curious or looking forward to see is how Bitcoin reacts to this, and if they're going to implement some sort of similar feature where they do the same thing and try and stay competitive, or will Ethereum truly rise above and maintain some sort of crypto dominance?
I think Bitcoin will probably not do much to change what they are. They have their proof of stake. They're the biggest right now. They're probably just going to ride it through, and I don't think they're going anywhere. But I'm not a financial advisor. Don't do anything based off what I say. Talk to an actual financial advisor, not me. I mean, you could very well see Ethereum eclipse Bitcoin in value sometime in the next 2 or 3 years. Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows indeed. We'll have to stay tuned to the updates that are coming from Ethereum here, and we'll see. Hopefully they can assert their dominance as the store your wealth type crypto.
I mean, yeah, but you still got the normal things going on the Ethereum token. So your smart contracts, a lot of decentralized hubs run off of it. NFTs are done on a lot of Ethereum tokens as well.
There you go. There you go.
And there's our obligatory NFT reference.
There we go. Yes. All righty. Well, the next the next section we have here, we started up last week where we were going to go through a fun tweet or something from some tech guy. So Grislow, take it away. Floor is yours.
Perfect. Well, once again, we find ourselves looking at some more meme tweets. And this week, I tried to find, it was very quickly before the show, so I wish I could have done more investigative research. I tried to look at Jeff Bezos, but he was too political, so those weren't necessarily meme tweets. But there was another meme tweet by Elon Musk a few days ago. He posted a video of what I believe is a bar at Neuralink. You don't see this often at companies. Sometimes you got to take the edge off when you're working hard. So I think it's just kind of a funny thing to see, especially coming from someone who's been on there, or allegedly been on there, on his employees for results. I can see this as sort of a sort of stress reliever built in, and I just think it's funny that Elon Musk has a bar in this company. I'm not sure if it's headquarters or one of the other ancillary buildings, but just a funny thing to see.
It's actually more common than you'd think.
Really?
Yeah, when you get these companies that are huge and you want to have like a company party, you can't all go to a bar. Because what are you going to do? Flood a bar with like 70, 80 people? That's not really feasible. Yeah, but then you have to rent out a whole bar.
Okay, if Google's got to run out a bar, I'm sure that's not going to even
sure, but
make
that's
a dent in there.
Yeah, but see, that's like an end of project thing. That's not like just a random like team building thing. A lot of them end up having their own little like spaces like this as like a place they can all go and decompress.
Yeah, not to say other companies don't have cool things. I mean, Google's campus is a primary example of.
Oh no, I'm just saying it's a lot more common. Having these bars and stuff is actually a kind of common practice.
I guess I was very unaware of that. It seems really cool. I like the neon. I don't know what they named it. Was the Mongolian?
No, that was the Mind Pong monkey.
Yeah, the Mind Pong monkey.
Have they put it? No, they put it in pigs, not monkeys.
I thought there was what do you call it? A flamingo?
I don't know.
I thought that was a monkey.
Yeah, it was a monkey. Here, let me
pull it
up.
I want to see.
Wasn't that the Mind Pong monkey?
Yes. Monkey Mind Pong. My apologies.
Dang.
Yeah. See?
The pink threw me off.
I could see it. But anyway.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny. Another funny tweet from Musk.
Yeah, I like the design of this. Like, it's a cool looking space. Like, you got mirrors on the wall.
Yeah, I'd go there just as a bar.
Yeah, like mirrors on the wall, like the cool like mood lighting at the top here, and like pool table. Like, what more do you need? Like, there you go.
I'd go there. Yeah, I'd go there as just a normal bar.
Right,
It's
exactly.
like sort of retro, sort of futuristic kind of blend. The mirrors
Yeah.
kind of lend itself towards that
It's
more
kind
kind
of
of
like a
futuristic look.
19. It makes me think of like a 19 like 50s take on what they thought the future would look like.
There
Yeah,
you go. Yeah.
exactly.
Very good. Speaking of what the future would look like, well, Google's. Yes, I know my transitions. I
Just
work.
run it. Just run it.
Just run
Yeah,
it.
go.
Alrighty. Google's next Pixel phone will be powered by a custom chip. Talk about the future. Google is going to be making their own silicon, and guess what it's going to be called? It's going to be called Tensor. So, what is a Tensor? It is a chip that Google is going to be manufacturing for the Pixel phones. So, some
It's
high.
also the name of some machine learning platforms, but I digress.
Yeah,
Correct.
that's where they
And
take the name from.
yep, and that's what I was going to talk about a little bit. Basically, they call the chip Tensor Processing Unit or TPU, a nod to the open source machine learning platform called TensorFlow, which I actually use in a couple applications that I work on
Hmm.
and stuff like that. But basically, they designed this chip for, well, a version of this chip for servers that live inside data centers that basically are specialized for like ASIC application specific chips for AI. And basically, they were able to adapt the design a fair bit and make it into a phone processor. So it's really interesting to see how Google is doing this now because Apple went to their own silicon. We just talked about a little bit earlier today how Snapdragon is making their own phone. Now we have Google actually fully committing to this, being like, "Hey, we're making our own silicon. This is what we're doing, and this is going to be the future of our phones." So it's great to see in an Android market.
And I want to hear your
I'm.
take on this because
Oh
you are
man,
a Google
I'm.
guy, and I remember your first Pixel.
Uh,
You were so
I wouldn't
excited.
call myself a Google guy, but that first Pixel was a good phone for the time. Like that camera still is one of the best cameras ever. So I'm I'm cautiously optimistic. This is still their first, I think, all-out SoC. But it's not like they haven't done something like this before. They had brought it up earlier. Actually, it just came up. The NeuroCore on the Pixel 3,
Hmm.
the Titan M chip on the Pixel 4. So it's not even their first foray into kind of their custom silicon for their phones. And that NeuroCore actually gave the Pixel 3 a lot of ability to do really like cool and niche things, and the image processing on that phone was really, really good. And the guy who did Google's original image processing for Pixel is coming back for this phone as well, who's apparently like a absolute genius in this
Hmm.
field. So
Okay, for
Hmm.
sure.
I'm very optimistic because they are going to have it's the Tensor because they have dedicated parts for machine learning. They're updating the security chip, the Titan M. There's going to be a Titan M2, I think is what it's called. Is what they're going to name the security chip. And that enables
Interesting.
them to do a lot of crazy, crazy things. Traditionally, video doesn't turn out as well as pictures do on smartphones because smartphones don't have the bandwidth usually to really process video in real time and touch it up and make it look nice like they do with photos. Because photos on, for example, like the current iPhone, the last gen Pixel, all of Samsung's phones, they're all heavily processed and edited, and they do all these insane like tricks and stuff to make the pictures look so much better. And what they claim they're going to be able to do in real time right now is be able to do that to actual videos. And that's been some of like the footage they've shown to like insiders and journalists and all that has been that. Now that'll be an idealized case, obviously, but just the fact that it looks like we'd be able to pull this off is a huge step forward.
Oh, 100%. And
And because,
what is video but
uh,
a bunch of pictures, 30 or 60
yeah,
pictures a second? Like,
exactly.
yeah,
And, in addition to that, they are really building this chip with machine learning in mind.
right.
And one of the things I think they said they wanted to do was process some of like your Google Assistant stuff locally versus the cloud, which will speed up responses significantly.
Yeah,
And I'm
definitely.
sure we'll see when like the full-fledged announcement comes out. What it's been so far was just a release of, hey, this is the phone, this is what it looks like, here's a couple changes we made, this is our custom silicon. And they've kind of left most of the other details completely vague. They haven't really, like, if you go to the product page right now, it doesn't look like a flat out announcement like you'd see normally before a phone comes out. So details are, I'm sure, will filter in before October, I think is when it comes out.
I could see
But I'm
that.
optimistic because
Yeah.
I'm sure they have a lot of really weird, niche, and interesting like machine learning tricks up their sleeve that they'll probably work into that phone.
I definitely
Yeah,
could see it.
I'm actually surprisingly very excited for this. Not just the release of the phone, but also the sort of announcement and breakdown of the new chip. Um, I don't think it is untrue to say that Google has been pretty much on the money when it comes to image processing and taking pictures with their phones.
Yeah,
I
I'd say no one's done it better, to be honest, because they've used the same sensor for 4 years now, I think, and it still keeps up with even the best phones.
Yeah, and actually, it's a really good point you make there. In the article, they did mention that the people that did see this phone were impressed because not only were the pictures good, but it really didn't take the hardware to do it. It was there, and as kind of a segue from that to this Tensor chip, mostly in part to do with the Tensor chip. Again, kind of a point that I was making earlier with Qualcomm's hardware and the software, the Android software, but that chip. The marriage of those two things, as we've already seen with Apple's M1 chip, is producing some incredibly insane specs and performance measures. And Google's been at the forefront of the sort of image processing side of things for the smartphones. I'm really excited to see what it really looks like. They were talking in the article about showing what it looks like, the same picture taken looks like on an iPhone 12, Pixel 5, and a Pixel 6. And apparently it's just ungodly, just spectacular. Not just that, but also video as well. I'm really, really excited to see how this technology picks up, not just in the first generation of this, but the next few as well. I think we're currently in. I think it's interesting. If you look back over the last, let's say, 10 years of smartphones and see kind of the trends in what's happening in the industry. First, you had like bigger phones. Then you had phones that were trying to get rid of all the stuff on the screen, bezel-less, the notch or lack thereof. And now you're seeing a foray into foldables, which it's sort of a gimmick. But now you're really seeing this push in a lot of these phone makers for their own custom chips that they can tailor, customize to their own software and then have this seamless experience. Not just have a seamless experience, but make their existing software and hardware just that much better and much more impressive. Not just that, but Fitz, you did allude earlier to having this chip on the phones and potentially some other things. They do mention that it's likely that they'll have a form of this in some of their other products, a smaller version maybe in some of their wearables. I can't remember if they have wearables or not. Just different devices. It's something I'm sure we'll see with Apple and their M1 chip. They've already put it in the iPad. I'm really looking forward to see it put into more of their computers. That being said, it's possible that Google will also do the same thing with Chromebooks and some of their other computers, and maybe come out with a very high performance computer that can take advantage of this new chip. So it's really exciting. Again, I'm uncharacteristically excited about something like this. I'm really waiting for that announcement and release day in video.
We will definitely see.
We'll see. There's a lot of potential. They can go as far as to basically, I know Apple has their W1 audio chip. It might be W2 now. I'm not zoned in on all of Apple's audio chips, but
I can't remember what the name is.
Well, it's a W
They're in
something.
here.
I know that.
I know they're in here.
W1 was with the first generation release. I know that. I don't know if they've updated or not. That's besides the point. Google, who knows? They might go into making their own audio chips as well, which would honestly even, bump Snapdragon out even more, because up till now, if you have an Android phone, you want a Snapdragon audio chip so you can get aptX, because that was the best codec you could get.
Right. And
So, who knows where they'll take it.
who knows? Exactly. And I'm looking forward to, as we mentioned, all the announcements and everything coming out with this. I'm also kind of interested to see how their supply chain is working out for these new chips. Um, but I'm sure people are going to go into a lot of detail in the future with this. People with connections that we don't have yet. So
Yeah.
they will go into detail with that. I mean, it's only a matter of time before we get
Yeah.
like Elon
I mean,
Musk
they really
somehow
kept it
showing.
vague.
But
They've been very vague on what it is, because we don't know. We have no idea on clock speeds. We have no idea on what the nanometer of the architecture is. Like, all we know is that there's an ML component, there's a Titan M security chip. It's all ARM based.
mhm,
That's kind of it.
I
But
can
Yeah.
see it.
them making their own custom silicon, and supposedly the pushes with this next iteration of Android, supposedly they're increasing performance by like 25-30% or something, I think it was.
Jeez.
I could get the number completely wrong right now. I'm operating completely off my memory, but the new version of Android is supposed to speed up significantly. So you pair that with them being able to optimize for their silicon, and I mean, I don't know. We got to see what it turns out like.
There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
I think I have two more points that I want to make. One, kind of piggybacking off what you said, Fitz. Yeah, I think it's really interesting that they are starting to produce their own chip in the middle of a chip shortage. I think that's interesting timing. I'm sure that they didn't want this to happen, and that they were trying to gauge the market a little bit, and try and see, and try and plan for a better timing. But if this chip shortage is really going to last as long as people are now saying it's going to last, it's almost like there's no better time than the present, because the present is going to be the
Now,
same as it would be in, a year or two. And then also, I think a really significant point here that we haven't really touched on yet, Google is, at least historically, a software company.
Yep.
They had their foray into electronics, and into hardware, and are making their phones. But this is a hard commitment to hardware. So I think it's really interesting to see the transformation, or the sort of modification of Google from this software exclusive company to now they're kind of both. And it's
Right.
kind of like, I hate to make the comparison all the time, but it's the best comparison I can make, and one that I'm very familiar with, Apple. I mean, they do both. They make it very clear. They make the software for the hardware and the hardware for the software. And especially with the M1 chip, it just optimizes it that much further. I mean, what better competitor now is there than Google? Especially if this chip really is going to be as promising as it sounds to be.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to have to see that too. And you make a really good point of, hey, um, this is like Apple and Google are just straight competing. I'd think like, okay, are you going to have any other of these tech giants that are going to do the exact same thing? Like, is Microsoft going to come out with
I
some
mean,
dedicated silicon for Azure or something like that?
that'd be interesting. Samsung does have their own, what is it, the Xenos chip or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
But
But it's
Yeah,
not using
hey,
their phones, right?
it is, yeah. Some of them.
Hmm.
Some of them use the Snapdragon, some of them use their phone. It's interesting.
yeah,
Kind
I
of got to
really
see
think
where.
I think it's a new wave, though, of technology, or of tech companies, and specifically phone companies. That's kind of
Yeah.
the new thing. It's making their own custom ARM-based chips and optimizing their hardware, and really marrying the software with the chip, and creating this super duper powerful, fully, well, almost completely optimized phone.
I think you just stumble into a very interesting point, actually. Specifically, ARM chips.
Good
That
point.
specific part, I think, is
Yeah.
very interesting. I mean, x86 is a very old architecture for software for chips, basically for all kinds of stuff. Uh, you could see basically when Apple released their M1 that they outpaced whatever they were using before Intel stuff by a really really crazy amount because I mean x86 is a little bit older and like straightforward software. It doesn't or hardware rather. It doesn't take advantage maybe of a lot of the new ideas people have had and new ways of advancing things. So I mean we
Right.
could be kind of transitioning into places moving farther and farther from x86 and more into ARM or even RISC-V, if anyone knows what that is.
I could see it. I could definitely see that. And especially with the benefits of the lower power consumption, the
Yeah.
newer instruction sets, the newer commands that programs can do with the data in a processor. It's just very cool to see. And as we're getting these people who are making their own chips, yes, they're using that standard. They're using that same architecture, that same standard, but they're specializing the design specifically for a certain
Yes.
use case. They're not saying, hey, this is the chip, this is how it is, this is going to be for, we're going to use the same chip in our servers, our phones, our laptops, our desktops. Like, this is the same thing. You're kind of seeing that a little bit with the M1, but it's designed in a way such that you can use it in multiple cases with something like this tensor phone processor. Yes, it was designed to be used for a server at first, but because of the flexibility of
Well,
this architecture, we could do whatever we want with it.
I think just the ML component they're putting in was designed for servers.
Oh, good point. Good point. Yeah.
I
Hmm.
got to imagine they have a normal thing just to handle standard instruction sets,
I
but they
could
have
see it.
specialized cores like their neural core.
Yes.
Like that's, I imagine, what do you call it? The progenitor to this, the proto,
Pre-
whatever it is.
predecessor? I don't know.
Yeah,
Proto
something
protege?
along those lines. You get what I
Something.
mean?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see. Long term, there's some interesting things that could happen. There's ARM. There's something called RISC-V, which is open source hardware for computer chips, which is a very interesting rabbit hole to go down if anyone ever wants to. But I digress. That's
For sure.
beside the point.
I think the biggest kind of question though that I have, and that I'm sure a lot of people will be asking is, what does this mean for the future of Intel? We're seeing more and more of these
Yeah.
smartphone companies in less or just over a year. I believe it's been just over a year. I guess Apple announced their plans to do ARM chips, let's say 2 or 3 years ago. It might have been two. But in the span of 2 years, 1 to 2 years, two major phone companies have now released or are about to release their own ARM chips, moving away from what they had previously used and kind of putting Intel's chipset in the dust. So how does Intel respond? What does that mean for them? Are they going to adapt and are they going to create a new architecture that competes with ARM?
Who knows? I mean, they have to do something to stay very relevant. And with they have other lines of business, obviously. They have like SSD, other chips, stuff like that. But if they all are built around a core product that you are no longer have a competitive, like you no longer have a competitive edge on, what does that do for you? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So we'll see. We will definitely have to see how Intel reels from this, basically. So
How they respond.
definitely. Well, anyway, that is all of the time we have for tonight. This is actually one of our longer episodes here. But before
There
we
Thanks.
was a
leave you,
lot.
yeah, there was a lot to go through. But before we leave here today, I'm going to hand it back to Grislow. He wanted to once again plug our social media and ask you to like, share, subscribe, all that jazz on all of these different social medias.
Yes, again, we're trying to make a big push for social media. It's kind of bare right now, but we are working on getting more content up, making it more kind of like a ecosystem where we can post, short clips on the stories, and perhaps do a clips channel that runs in tandem with this channel, this YouTube channel. But yeah, guys, follow us on Facebook at Tech Talk Nation Show, Instagram at Tech Talk Nation, and Twitter at Tech Talk Nations. That's Tech Talk Nation with an S. Again, we live stream this on YouTube, and it's available as a full show afterwards when we're done streaming. But this show is also available in audio format on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, really any major podcast site. So don't think you're going to miss out on the show if you tune in the next day or you're looking for us, after we do the live show. It's still there. You can find it anywhere you can. Look for more content. And as a side note, we also have the link to our most recent show in the bio, at least on Instagram. I want to get that also on some of the other platforms if possible. But yeah, guys, don't forget to look there. We're really only going up from here. More content is coming your way. And we're excited to for you to be on this journey with us as we kind of grow this show and expand and kind of fill these big shoes that we're really trying to fill.
Well, wonderful way of putting it, Grislow. Thank you so much for that. And with that, we are going to bring our broadcast today to a close. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you to Grislow and Ryan, as usual, for being here today. You guys always offer a great perspective, and we will love to have you back as we hope to get a schedule going with these shows sometime soon, now that all of our schedules have become a little less terrifying. We hope to get on a more regular schedule with some of this stuff, and watch our social media for more details to come on that. So with that, hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and tune in next week to more Tech Talk Nation. Have a great night.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to Tech Talk Nation. Tune in next week for more discussion on the latest in tech.